What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining the Glass Horror channel. This week's going to be amazing because we have the return of Michael Myers in Halloween. But before that, we need to talk of another return of Pinhead and the Cinnabytes, Hellraiser 2022. Let's get into it right now. Okay, so I haven't really covered Hellraiser on this channel at all, but I will tell you now, I am a massive fan of Pinhead and Hellraiser, from the very first one to the one that just came out this past week, 2022. Now listen, I've watched a lot of reactors talk about the franchise, and a lot of people say after the fourth one, they're all forgettable. I don't think so. I like every single one of them with the exception of maybe two. And that's just because I understand what they're trying to convey in the Hellraiser saga. And it's, with a horror movie, you kind of have to take acting and stuff like that with a grain of salt, because we're not there for that. When we started watching horror movies, we didn't go into it for the acting. Look at the movies from back in the day in the 30s, in the 40s, and the 50s. Like, the acting wasn't the greatest, but it made you feel what you're watching. So, you guys saw my trailer reaction for the Hellraiser 2022. I was excited about it going into it. So, let's get into what I thought about it. So first, I'll get into the perks, the things I liked about it. I liked, number one, the Cinnabytes. They did a little bit more with the Cinnabytes here than they've done in the previous ones. The Cinnabytes have been essentially like a backstory, way back in the background, following Pinhead's orders. Not really, with the exception of Chatterer, that Cinnabyte's probably the only one that actually got a lot of presentation and prestige in the eyes of fans. The other ones kind of were just forgotten because they kept getting changed throughout. Chatterer is really the only mainstay staple aside from Pinhead. So I liked that they were able to, I felt they had more of a presence in this movie, which that was great to me. And Chatterer was really creepy looking in this, which this Cinnabite always is. So that's one thing I liked. Second thing I liked about it was the box itself, the puzzle box itself. Like I said in the trailer, I love the idea of how it shifted. I like the idea, and this kind of harkens to Hellraiser, Hellseeker, because in the Hellseeker, actually Lawrence had to give multiple people up in order to save herself. With the idea of the box changing throughout each time it's open, it's because another person must be sacrificed each time throughout. I like that connection there. That was one of the good things. I also liked the differences in what a person can get, the pleasure that they receive after having the box complete its configuration. That goes a little deeper, because in the original ones, all you kind of see is, you don't really know. You know, the Cinnabytes come, they take you, and that's it. And they talk about the pleasures, they talk about the pain, they talk about that kind of thing, but they don't really go in depth as far as what that entails in any of the other movies, except for this one, which I really thought was good. Now, here's what I didn't like so much, okay? When I first saw the original trailer, I thought that the Pinhead character looked ominous. I liked the look of the Pinhead character. The delivery in this movie, nothing about Pinhead to me looked intimidating, and the voice didn't work for me. I really would have, and maybe I'm too close and passionate about Doug Bradley's version. But even Paul Taylor's version, to me, had a little bit more intensity, and it looked a little more creepy. It felt like more of a presence. And maybe because if you look back at the very first Hellraiser, Pinhead was only in for 10 minutes. That was it. This one, I think Pinhead was overexposed. There were a couple of scenes where Pinhead was just standing there looking, and it just felt out of place, because when I think of Pinhead and the Cinnabytes in the box. The box is open. They come, they do their business, and they leave. That's it. There's not a lot of standing around, a lot of like negotiating back and forth in a long form. Granted, yes, Ashley Lawrence negotiated in her movies, but this just felt different. Another thing I didn't like about this was the house that the main villain had constructed here. They didn't go in depth as to what that was. He said he stated it to make it a prison or make it a safety net for him, but essentially they just closed the door on Cinnabytes. So Cinnabytes, these world-eating, you open the box, we come, we take your soul, where the hell's gatekeepers are stopped by a door being closed. I just felt that was a little silly. Now, if this house was essentially supposed to be like a 13 Ghost type house, where each door had like a certain spell in it that would keep them out, that would make more sense to me. Maybe I missed it. If that was mentioned in there and that's what it was, please let me know, because maybe I missed it. To me, it just seemed a bit silly that these evil entities, these malevolent beings that are hell's gatekeepers, will be summoned but have to stop in front of a door. I didn't like that very much, and it took me out of the movie. Also, the characters, aside from Riley, aside from the main character, the other characters were a little bit forgettable. I couldn't really relate, nor did I really care to relate to any of them. And one of the biggest things for me that was missing in this, in the original, or not even just the original, in most of the previous Hellraiser movies, and I know our main antagonist was by them telling us he was an evil guy who was a sadist. I get all that. And you look at the first Hellraiser with Julia and Frank, like they were heinous individuals. Julia was married to Frank's brother, had an affair with Frank, and then killed people to bring a zombie Frank back to life. Like, if you just think of that in terms of like reality, that is some next level evil stuff. You know what I mean? That stuff wasn't shown for our main character, our main antagonist in this movie. So I didn't feel the gravity of just how depraved he was to then elevate the Cinnabytes. Because for me, you saw what Julia and Frank were up to, but then they even their insaneness had to bow down essentially and be terrified of the Cinnabytes, which in turn elevated the Cinnabytes more as this thing you don't want to mess with, thus making Pinhead even stronger, since Pinhead's the leader of that group. So that's, for me, that was why it took me out a little bit. The cinematography was good. I like you can tell it was a big budget, and you can tell they spared no expense on making this feel like it was big. And I like the fact that the colors reminded me of the colors when they would turn scenes in the original Hellraiser. I also love the score. This score was very close to Christopher Young's. Christopher Young's was bold, it was strong, it was impactful. It made you know that a presence was coming whenever his score was at the forefront. This was similar to that, so I did like that as well. But for me, I haven't sat to really think about my ranking of the movies yet. That'll be my next video when I really think about it. But it's off the top of my head, probably 4 or 5 movies I could think of better than this one, just for me. And now, granted, this is solely my opinion. I just don't. I couldn't get past Pinhead. I couldn't get past some of the things they did to kind of devalue and discredit almost the Cinnabytes in Pinhead and make them look not as strong as they were. They almost look subservient in a way, when that's not the case. That's not how that's not the imposing villains that I'm used to. So that's my review, guys. If you haven't seen it already, it's worth a check. If you're a Hellraiser fan, you gotta watch this movie. If you have seen this movie, let me know what you thought. Did you agree with what I said? Did you not agree? Did you really love it? Did you really hate it? I want to know. Get down in the comments and let me know. If you're new here, this is the Glad's Horror Channel, the best horror channel here on YouTube. I do all things horror. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to this channel. If you're returning, thank you so much again for returning. All your views, comments, and likes grow this channel so very much. I really can't thank you enough. Anyways, guys, that's my video. I'll see you guys next time.